Before you close out this video to begin your Japanning, make sure you watch this video all the way through because I'm about to save you some time, some money, and some stress. My name is Erica and I've been to Japan about 4 times in the last couple of years, and I'm about to share with you my best tips so you have the most amazing time in Japan. Let's start from the very beginning, and this includes paperwork before your trip. So what I recommend is visiting the Visit Japan website to fill out all of your information. This is going to save you so much time when you get to the airport. And this only takes a few minutes just to fill out the hotel information, the airlines, how long you're going to be staying, and the purpose of your trip. When you get that QR code, make sure you take a screenshot of it, and then also it's going to give different entries per family member, so everyone's going to have a different QR code, but you only have to do 1 entry per family. When you get to the airport, after you get off of the plane, you're going to go over to immigration. So sometimes the line's a little bit long, sometimes it's really short. What you're going to do is you're going to show the people your passport as well as the QR code, and then after that you're going to head over to baggage claim. Once you grab your bag, if you had a checked-in luggage, you're going to go over to the customs area, and that's where you're going to scan your QR code and your passport again. If you didn't do the Visit Japan website, that's not a big deal. You can still do the immigration paper once you get to Japan. It just takes some time to fill it out, and just make sure you have a pen because sometimes there are not a lot of pens. Once you pass immigration, baggage claim, and customs, you're going to exit that area, and then you're going to see that the airport's divided into 2 sections. So you have the ground level section, and then you have the underground section. On the ground level, that's where you will first arrive, and that's where you can get some food, pick up your pocket Wi-Fi, get a bus ticket or a taxi. You can also do luggage delivery. There's also car rentals and ATMs, and then there's also an information booth, which is really helpful, and they speak English. The bottom level is where you're going to see the travel center, more information booths, get your transit cards, your IC cards, your welcome suikas. You're going to load up your money at the charge stations, and also you can buy your tickets for the express and the local trains. I'll talk about money and transit cards in a little bit, but this is just a good place to keep in mind and to make a mental note. Also, be sure to download my free beginner's guide to Japan. It's going to be linked in the video description below or the pinned comment, and this is going to go over money and transportation, how to find a good hotel, and just a few tips that's going to help you for your trip to Japan. Before I talk about how to get to your hotel from the airport, let's just talk about luggage real quick. So if possible, if you could try to travel carry-on only, it's going to make a huge difference. You're going to be so much more mobile in Japan, especially if you're going to be taking public transportation or if you got to jump from hotel to hotel. What we like to do is travel carry-on only, and then what I'll do is I'll bring a collapsible duffel with me, and what I do is the last couple days of the trip, I'll do a lot of shopping, and what I end up doing is just filling up that duffel bag with a bunch of souvenirs and snacks and a lot of goodies and beauty care, and I end up just checking that bag for the flight home. The trick to traveling carry-on only is to make sure you have access to laundry. So in that beginner's guide to Japan, I do cover some hotel suggestions there. When it comes to check-in bags, if you do have that, what you could do is luggage delivery from hotel to hotel or airport to hotel. Do keep in mind that luggage delivery could take 1 to 2 days. They usually have some companies called Yamato, so it's like a cat carrying another cat. Or what I like to do is just ask my hotel if they actually have some luggage delivery, and then they'll take care of it for me. So what it normally is around 2,400 Japanese yen, and that converts to around 14 or 15 USD during the time of this video. For the luggage delivery, they're going to help you fill out that form, and then they'll actually measure your bag and just ask you what's inside of it. So if it's just clothes and all that, there should be no problem. But the luggage should arrive at your destination, and what I do suggest is getting an Apple AirTag so you can track your bags all throughout Japan. It just brings you peace of mind, and I just love doing that. So Apple AirTags, highly recommend. Now let's talk about how to get from the airport to your hotel. So this is just a personal preference, but if you can start your trip off in Tokyo, I just think that Tokyo is a little bit harder than most other places in Japan. So if you can get that down and you can get the transportation down, you will be just fine and you'll be ready for really anything. Plus, you're more fresh towards the beginning of your trip, so learning will be a lot easier. As far as the airports go, I've now been to Narita Airport, Haneda Airport, Kansai Airport, Itami Airport, and Chitose Airport. And I would say for the international airports that Haneda Airport is my favorite to arrive in because it's a lot closer to Tokyo, and then Narita Airport is my favorite to depart from because the souvenirs are just amazing. Whether you arrive in Narita or Haneda, honestly, just go for the cheaper flight. That's going to be a really good way to save some money because in the end, you're only saving about an hour's worth of time if you arrive in Haneda versus Narita Airport. So there's a few different options from getting from the airport to your hotel. So let's go over a few of the options. So the first option is taking an airport limousine bus. Now it's not just like a normal bus. It's a really nice bus. It has air conditioning and you can recline your seats. They also sometimes have charging ports as well. So I really like taking airport limousine bus because it's just a really good stress-free way to travel. So it's going to take you from the airport to the major train station of the city that you're going to be going to. So normally we like to end up in Shibuya or Shinjuku, and it's just a really nice stress-free way to travel, especially if you have kids or if you have like a lot of bags. So what you do is you go to the counter and you can either buy a ticket right there at the counter, or sometimes they have a kiosk. It kind of depends on if you're at Narita Airport or Haneda Airport. And then what you end up doing is you get your little ticket stub, you just like walk right outside, and it's going to show you which bus number to stand at. So you just stand in line, make sure you're standing in the correct line for the time on your ticket, because there's usually a lot of buses. And then what they're going to do is they're going to look at your ticket, they're going to take your luggage, they'll put a strap on it and then give you a voucher, so then you can match your voucher to the strap. You get in the bus and then just listen for English announcements. Sometimes it's in Japanese and then it goes in English. Usually it's in Japanese first and then it's English afterwards. So then once you get to your place, you're going to just arrive on land. So I would say it's a really nice, relaxing way to travel if you just don't want to deal with the subways and bringing your luggage on the trains. When you buy the airport limousine tickets, you can either use an IC card, which I'll be covering in a little bit in this video, or you can be paying with cash. It was about a 30-minute ride from Haneda Airport to Shinjuku during rush hour on a Friday, and then about an 80-minute ride from Narita to Shinjuku at 8 o'clock at night. The next option is taking an express train. So this video would be too long if I explained every single train, but pretty much express trains, they bypass certain stops. So local trains will stop every stop. Express trains will stop like every 5 or 10 or 20 stops. So that's why they're so much faster. For the express train tickets, you can buy those at the kiosk, and it's going to give you a physical ticket. So that physical ticket, you're going to slide it in that ticket slot at the gate, and then just make sure you grab it on the other side if it comes up again. The next option would be taking a local train. Now the local train is just going to take a lot longer because you're stopping at every stop. However, if you're not going to a major train station, sometimes you just have to take a local train. When it comes to the local trains, you can normally just tap in and out with the IC card or the transit card, which I'll be covering in a little bit. The next method is taking a taxi or an Uber. Now, in general, if you're in Narita, the taxis can be really expensive when you go from Narita to Tokyo. However, this last trip when I was with my parents, we did take an Uber from Shinjuku all the way to Narita, and I just gotta say, man, for 4 of us and about 8 or 9 bags, it was about $200, and it was just so relaxing. So if you're wanting door-to-door service and you've saved up some money for the taxi or the Uber, man, I'm just gonna say, wow, what an experience. It was really nice. I would say in the past I was against taking a taxi for a long distance, but now after doing it and just seeing how much stress it took off of my parents, and when you're traveling with people that are just a little bit different travel styles, sometimes the peace of mind is worth it. Take a look at the screen for the price comparison, but in the end, you do you. All right, let's talk about Wi-Fi and staying connected. So if you're gonna be in Japan, I highly recommend that you stay connected to the interwebs of some sort, because literally trying to get to your hotel or trying to get to a restaurant without having Google Maps or a translation app is going to be so challenging. So unless you're a pro, I would say you gotta just make sure you get connected. So there's 3 main ways you can stay connected to the interwebs in Japan. Let's talk about international phone plans. Okay, international phone plans are not that great. Feel free to message me on Instagram. I'll put it right here on the screen, but I had an international phone plan the very first time I went, and it did not work at all. I wasted about $60, and it was so lame. Now there are some international phone plans that are really, really good, but the price has kind of gone up. So sometimes it's $10 a day, sometimes it's $5 a day after you spend a certain amount, and then sometimes it's $15 a day. That's really expensive. What I would suggest is getting either a pocket Wi-Fi or a digital eSIM. A pocket Wi-Fi is really awesome, but you do have to make sure that it stays charged. So if you're going to use a pocket Wi-Fi, then I would definitely have a battery pack with you. A pocket Wi-Fi is really good if you're traveling in a small group and you tend to stay together. Now, if it's a group of 4 or 5 or 6 of you and you're going to be splitting off, do not get a pocket Wi-Fi, because what's going to happen is someone's going to wander off, and then what ends up happening is they get lost. So also, I did on this last trip when my parents were with me, I Apple AirTagged my mom, and it was just the best thing, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know about your survival score in Tokyo, but anyway, she's really cute, and my dad keeps good tabs on her. So for the pocket Wi-Fis, those are usually good for about 5 to 10 devices. It is a little bit more expensive, but if you have to bring your laptop or your iPad, or you have a bunch of tablets, it's definitely worth it. It is just a lot more space, so if it's just gonna be you and you're gonna have some other people in your group and you're gonna be splitting off, I highly recommend getting a digital eSIM. So if you don't know what a digital eSIM is, an eSIM works by letting you connect to another mobile network without having to swap out physical SIM cards. So most newer phones have an eSIM option, and this was the cheapest option for me. I used this digital eSIM all over Japan. I'm talking about the countryside, I'm talking about snowboarding, I'm talking about in the mountains, and it works all over the major cities as well. But I'll link below my favorite digital eSIM, and then also that free beginner's guide to Japan that covers a lot more information when it comes to this topic. Also, if you haven't already, I would love it if you would click that subscribe button. Here at Build Your Moxie, I cover a lot of travel, a lot of Japan tips, and a lot of money. So I like to be really good with my money, so I can travel to Japan a lot of times. So if those are some topics that strike your fancy, I would love it if you would click that subscribe button. Also, if you ever see me in Japan, I would love it if you would say hi. The last 3 times I've been to Japan, some subscribers came up to me and said, "Oh, Erica, I watched your YouTube videos and I was just feeling so warm and fuzzy, and Destiny, you're my girl." And then to the family from South Africa, you guys are just so sweet and your kids are so adorable. So anyways, please say hi. I've been told I'm really nice and I don't bite. All right, let's talk about money real quick. So there's a few different methods that you can use to pay for things in Japan. So it really just depends if you're in the major cities versus in the countryside. If you're in the countryside, please have cash with you. If you're gonna be like in just Tokyo or maybe some really, really touristy areas, most likely you'll be okay with a credit card or a debit card, but this is what I suggest. Have a different method of payment like with you at all times. So the first one's gonna be a credit card or a debit card. Just make sure you're watching out for those international transaction fees because sometimes it's 3% and that can add up a lot. The next thing that you could do is cash. Now, Japan uses a lot of cash. Even if you're in the major cities, some places only accept cash, especially at some of those ramen places. So make sure you have some cash with you. I feel really good when I have about 30,000 Japanese yen on me. So that's less than $200 USD. That doesn't mean I'm spending it that whole time, but just in case something happens to my card or my IC card, like my transit cards, I like to have some cash on me so I can reload those transit cards. If you're gonna be getting some Japanese yen, I highly suggest getting just a little bit from your bank if you want a little bit more peace of mind. But what I like to do is just when I get to the airport, I like to go to the 7 Bank. So it's a 7-Eleven ATM. So it's called 7 Bank, and that has really good conversion rates and they're really transparent about how much they're gonna be taking out. So that's a really easy thing to do. And I like to take out about 100,000 at a time. That's around $600 or $700 USD. The next method of payment is the IC card. I love IC cards so much. So I'm gonna talk about IC cards and subway tips. If you don't know what an IC card is, it's basically e-money. So you can have this on your phone or you can have a physical card like this one. And what you can use this for is at different restaurants, convenience stores, or you can use these on all the local lines above and below ground. Really, this is like a catch-all if you don't have cash with you. Most locals will have an IC card connected to their phone. There is a limit to how much money you can put on the card, which is typically 20,000 Japanese yen. Most IC cards will cost a few hundred yen when you purchase it, but will last for 10 years. So if you need to top it off, you can do that at the kiosk at most stations. I recommend just topping it off with what you need and then going from there. Now, depending on where you land in Japan will determine which type of IC card you will get. In Tokyo, you can get the Suica card or the Pasmo card. If you arrive in Osaka, you will end up with the Ikoka card. There are actually 10 different IC cards and they vary per region, so you can always pick up another IC card if you're traveling to a different region in Japan. I'm also going to link below a few resources if you would like to learn more about the different IC cards. Now, there has been a lot of drama llama regarding the Suica and Pasmo card shortage, so here's a few suggestions I have for you if you're looking to get a Suica card. 1. Just visit the JR East travel service centers when you're in Tokyo and just ask. During my last trip, I was doing research for you all, so I just walked into the JR East Travel Service Center in Shinjuku and I just asked them if they had any Suica cards and I was able to buy one. So this was March 2024, so it never hurts to ask even when there's a shortage. 2. If you start your trip in Osaka area first, pick up an Ikoka card at the train station. It works just like a Suica card, so by the time you get to Tokyo, you are set. 3. You can always buy a paper ticket at the ticket booth. Usually most people are using IC cards or mobile IC cards, so the ticket lines will be relatively short. 4. If you don't want to get a paper ticket for the subway, then you can also get various subway passes. There are a lot of websites that offer subway passes, but I usually just recommend for people just to use Klook because it has a lot of different languages and you can pay in your own currency online. I've used Klook app for my other Japan Funtivities and it was easy and it worked really well. 5. If you have a JR pass, you can totally use this and travel taking the JR lines. Just a little side note, you cannot use a JR pass on the underground subway. 6. If you're a tourist, you can purchase a Welcome Suica or a Pasmo Passport while supplies last. The Welcome Suica and the Pasmo Passports work just like the other IC cards, except for it lasts only 28 days. So keep in mind that you have to use up all the money on the card, so just load it up with what you need at the kiosk when you top it off. A lot of the time, you can pick them up at the Narita or Haneda airport in certain stations. Also, just to clarify, IC cards like the Suica card, Pasmo card, Ikoka card, Welcome Suica, and Pasmo Passport can be used for public transportation as well as buying things like souvenirs and food. The subway passes and the tickets are just for the subway. 7. If you have an iPhone, you can actually put the Suica in your wallet on your phone. What you're going to do is you're going to go into your wallet app, click on Transit, type in Japan, click Suica. Add any amount that you would like. You can also add Pasmo and Ikoka to your phone as well. More tips on the screen right here. Woo! You need one Suica card or one IC card per person. The reason for this is because you need to tap in when you get to the train station, then you gotta tap out when you get to your destination. So some people, they feel really rich when they have a nice car or when they have a nice house or shoes or whatever, Louis Vuitton. But for me, I have 3 IC cards and I just feel like the richest girl in the world. Like this is an Ikoka card that I got from Osaka. This is a Suica card that I got from the first time I was in Japan. Oh, beautiful. And then this is my Kitika card. This is from Sapporo and I just feel like I'm the richest person. I'm just going around Japan just collecting these. These are amazing and they all work pretty much the same. You just tap in, tap out, you buy stuff. Just make sure if you're using the subway that you use the same card. So Ikoka card goes and then Ikoka card out, or Suica card in, then Suica card out, right? So just make sure you're not doing like Kitika and then Suica. But most people don't have 3. This is just me feeling really rich. All right, let's talk about Japan Rail Pass. So if you don't know what a Japan Rail Pass is, a JR Pass is a pass that can be used by foreign tourists and offers unlimited rides on certain JR lines and Shinkansen, aka bullet trains, for 1, 2, or 3 weeks. So this used to be a really good deal, and then in October 2023, there is a major price increase. I'm talking about 60%. So it's no longer a gnarly good deal, but if you are going to be taking the Shinkansen and you're going to be taking 3 or more trips, I would say that it could possibly be worth it. You may want to just do a JR Pass calculator to see if it's worth buying or not. But in general, since the price increase on the JR Pass, I recommend buying individual Shinkansen tickets. If you are going to buy a JR Pass, then there's a couple ways that you could do it. So you can either get it from the official website, and I'll be sure to link that below so that you could pick it up in Japan at the time of this video. But you can also get it from a third-party vendor, and sometimes you can get some really good deals on it. If you do get it from a third-party vendor, make sure you get it at least a couple weeks before you arrive in Japan, because they're gonna have to mail you like an official paper voucher. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that official voucher and your passport, and you're gonna go to the areas where they say you can go. A lot of times it's the JR East Travel Service Centers, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna give them your passport and the voucher, and you can activate your JR Pass there. So you can tell them what day you want to activate it. It doesn't mean that that day you're standing there is the day it's activated. Now keep in mind, if the JR Pass is for 7 days, that Wednesday to Wednesday is not 7 days, that's 8 days. So Wednesday to Tuesday is 7 days. So just make sure you're paying attention to the days on the calendar. When you get your pass, it's gonna look like this. And then make sure you don't lose it because you can't replace it. And you also wanna keep your passport with you if you are gonna be using a JR Pass, because your passport and the JR Pass is linked. So if there's any problems at the gate, they're gonna be asking you for your passport. Let's talk about how to use the JR Pass. So keep in mind that you can only use the JR Pass on bullet trains and certain lines. So I'm gonna show you a picture on the screen, and this is all the JR line stops. And then I'm also gonna show you a picture on the screen, and these are all the subway stops in Tokyo. So you cannot use the JR Pass in the subway, and just remember, the subway is underground. If you are gonna pick up your JR Pass, I would recommend doing that at the airport, because a lot of times you can get those express trains included in your JR Pass. So to use the JR Pass, all you gotta do is walk up to the gate wherever there's arrows. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna slip it through the ticket slot, and it's gonna go down and up, swoop, and then you're gonna make sure you grab it on the other side of that gate. Don't forget to grab that ticket at the other side of the gate, or else that's a lot of money down the drain. If you do it wrong, the gate's gonna block you and it's gonna look like this. Let's talk about Shinkansens, aka bullet trains. The Shinkansens are really fast trains. They're bullet trains that take you really far in Japan and really fast. When it comes to Shinkansens, I just recommend getting a reserved seat. Why be stressed? Just reserve your seat when you buy your ticket. On the Shinkansen, there's enough space for you to put your carry-on bag and a personal item in front of you where your feet are, or you could put the carry-on bag up above and your personal item up above. If you do have a really large luggage, I'm gonna put on the screen right here some of the guidelines, but I really just recommend just doing luggage delivery if your bag is kind of large. If you do have a large luggage, you have to make sure you reserve that space when you're buying your ticket. And if you're having any difficulties with that, you can go to the JR East Travel Service Centers and they can just do it all for you. But don't make that mistake of bringing a very large luggage and not having a space for your bag. There may be an issue there. So if you have a large bag, you just have to make sure that you reserve a certain spot for it, and it's normally going to be at the front or the back of each car on the train. On the Shinkansens, there's a tray, there's a place for you to put your jacket. They don't sell food anymore on the Shinkansen, so just make sure you get some snacks or you get some vending machine drinks. You can also get an ekiben, which is like a little boxed meal, and you can get that right after you pass the gate and before you get onto your platform. For the Shinkansens, there's the regular seats, then there's also the green car. I love taking the green car. The green car is kind of like first class a little bit. It is really comfortable and a lot more quiet. It's nice and fancy. It's about $30 more, but for me, it's worth it. And I really like that you can recline and have a comfortable place for your feet. To get on the Shinkansen, you can use a JR Pass, you can use a physical ticket, or now what they let you do is they let you board with a QR code. So I'll cover that in a little bit. To buy the Shinkansen tickets, you can either go to the travel service centers where they can do it all for you, value. That's a really nice stress-free experience. You can also buy them online through an app called Klook, so I'll link some information below as well as a code for you to use. You may be able to save yourself some money. And then also, if you buy your Shinkansen tickets on Klook, you're gonna get a QR code. So you can either use that QR code just to scan your way in, or you can use that QR code at one of the kiosks and get a printed ticket. I'm gonna share some quick Japan tips, and these have been really helpful for me. If you're gonna be taking a taxi, I highly suggest that you just print out your hotel address and make sure it's in Japanese. What you can also do is just screenshot it on your phone, but it's just really nice to have an address in Japanese. Trust me, it's gonna be much easier to communicate with the taxi person. Also, when it comes to taxis, don't touch the doors, they will open it for you. Also, I feel like a lot of other Japan videos kind of say, don't take taxis, don't take taxis. Take a taxi if you need to take a taxi. Just remember that if you're going really far, it can be expensive, but sometimes just peace of mind is worth it. My favorite time to take a taxi is once I get to the major train station and I have my carry-on with me. I'll just take a taxi to the hotel sometimes, especially if it's cold. Okay, let's talk about money. So I do like to get all of my cash at the 7 bank ATMs, and you can get these at all the 7-Elevens. That's really helpful. When you pay with cash, you just end up with a lot of coins. Sometimes the coins are really helpful because laundry sometimes has to take the 100 yen coins. So if you do have a lot of coins and you don't want to have all of them, what you can do is you can go to a 7-Eleven and you can pay and you can put all the coins in that slot and it'll count it up for you, and then it'll just give you the change. So that's a really good way for us to get rid of our coins. Also, when you go to Japan, just make sure you have a little coin purse, one with a little zipper. That tends to be really helpful. Also, if you're going to be paying with cash, you may see a tray in front of you. Just make sure you put the money on that tray. They're going to grab the tray and then they're going to put that change on the tray and then you're going to take your money back. Also, I'm from Los Angeles, so I use USD. If you want to have an easy way to convert Japanese yen to USD or vice versa, what you could do is if you have an iPhone, go to your iPhone, go to the calculator app, click this button right here, and then just make sure you click convert. And then what you could do is you can go like this to switch USD or Japanese yen. Let me just put in 10,000. There you go. 10,000 Japanese yen is equivalent to 64 USD. So anyways, this is a nice little hack that I've been just using the last month or so. This has been a lifesaver. All right, let's talk about tipping real fast. Even though you just had an amazing meal and you just want to give them extra, do not tip, especially at restaurants. It can be considered rude. If you had a personal driver or a professional photographer, maybe if you want to give them something, make sure you just ask them, can I tip you? Can I give you some extra money? And then just go from there. We actually tipped our photographer, but we made sure to ask first. If you're at a ramen shop, I would say most of the time you have to order your food through a machine. It will take cash and sometimes card, and then you're gonna get a ticket and you hand this to the people when they ask. And then they're gonna tell you where to sit down. After you had your amazing food, once you're done, because you already paid, just make sure you leave. Don't just sit there because other people are waiting to take your spot. Japan is amazing. There's so much to see and there's so much to do. It could be really overwhelming. But if you are super curious to see how I do my trips, I do have my Japan itinerary in the description below. It includes all my trips I've taken and all of our fun activities and hotels with washing machines. It is pretty much an inside scoop to the way I like to Japan. So anyways, if you're interested, I'll have that in the description below. I love convenience stores so much. They're also known as Konbinis, and there's 3 major ones. There's 7-Eleven, there's Family Mart, and there's Lawson. So 7-Eleven is known for their delicious food, Family Mart is known for their fried stuff, and then Lawson is known for their desserts. So anyways, you really can't go wrong with any of the convenience stores. We just love them so much. My favorite thing to do is to get smoothies at 7-Eleven. Not every 7-Eleven has smoothies, but when you do find that special 7-Eleven, it is a good day. But Konbinis are so much fun. I like to get my snacks there and my drinks, beauty stuff. You can get an umbrella if you need as well. One of the biggest culture shocks when you get to Japan is that there's gonna be not a lot of trash cans anywhere, okay? So very few trash cans. Maybe sometimes a Shinkansen train will have one. Maybe sometimes a random subway stop will have one. There are gonna be some trash cans in the Konbinis. However, that's reserved for the food that you've been eating there at the Konbini. Japan is very clean, so please pick up your trash. You have to keep your trash with you. So what I suggest is just buy a plastic bag for 3 to 5 Japanese yen whenever we're getting our snacks from the Konbini, and then we'll use that for our trash bag. Then you just bring your trash back with you to the hotel and then you discard it there. Also, don't ask any store people or any restaurant people to take your trash. Just bring it home with you. That's just how it goes. So this next thing is revolving soap. This has always been really interesting to me. I've been to Japan a few times now and I still don't really get it. But in general, Japan's really clean. But the one thing is some bathrooms, especially in the train stations and just in other places, it's not like they ran out of soap, okay? There's just no soap. And I don't really understand that. So anyways, if anyone knows the answer, can you please tell me in the comment section below? But yeah, just have some hand sanitizer with you just in case. And then also, there's not always a place to dry your hands. So some of the local ladies, they'll like to have a little handkerchief with them or like a little towel. So just keep this in mind. It's just really interesting. All right, rapid fire manners tips. Let's do this. So make sure you stay quiet when you're on the public transportation. So there are some trains that are louder than others. And I've been on trains where it was packed full of people and not one bit of noise was to be heard. So if you're going to be talking, please keep your voice down to a whisper like this. And a lot of people are resting, so just try not to disturb them. Make sure you are following the flow of the people. Don't be that random awkward person that's just going against everyone like a ping pong ball, all right? Normally, it's stick to the left when you're in Tokyo and then stick to the right when you're in Osaka, but sometimes the rules just get kind of jumbled in there. Just follow the flow of the people. When you're on an escalator, don't block the whole pathway because that's reserved for people that are in a rush. Pull off to the side if you're going to be eating or drinking. It's looked down upon if you're eating and drinking while you're walking. Even though sometimes you may even see local Japanese people eating and walking, just try to be considerate and just pull off to the side. All right, next, wait for everyone else to get off the train and subway first and then get onto the car. Don't be that ping pong ball just going against the flow. This next one is for the picky eaters. If you are going to Japan, it's not really a place where you go to ask about all these substitutions and how to modify your meal. Really, if you don't like what you see, just find another place to eat. Also, in Japan, it's really rude to say, huh? Huh? What? Right? What you want to say instead is a or hai. And the reason for this is because it can just kind of sound very angry. It actually is a confrontational noise. So just be really careful about saying, huh? The rules can be lax in some places and then stricter in other places in Japan. But in the end, the key takeaway is just to be respectful. Don't be a meanie. You're entering into their culture. Okay, remember that. And then just keep Japan beautiful or just stay home. All right, let's talk about passport and tax refund. So if you're not a Japanese citizen, you can get a tax refund on some of the tangible goods at certain places. Sometimes there's a certain amount of money you have to spend in order to activate the tax refund, but the tax refund is about 10%, which can get you some pretty good savings. What I like to do is if I'm just not sure, I'll just show them my passport and just see if it gets me a discount. That's a really good way to do it. Also, look around for any lines that say tax refund. And then sometimes if you're at the mall, you have to go to a certain floor to get your tax refund. I also heard that the rules might be changing for tax refund, so this information may eventually change. All right, if you're going to be going to an onsen, they may not let you in if you have any tattoos. If it's small, you may be able to cover it, but some places are really strict on the tattoo rules. So what you could do instead is just research tattoo-friendly onsens. If you're going shopping or you have luggage, coin lockers are a really nice place to temporarily keep your stuff in. You can reserve it for a few minutes or up to a few days. It's first come, first serve. You can also use cash or IC card. And then we used this when we went to Disney Sea, and we were able to fit 2 carry-ons and 2 personal items in one of the bigger ones. However, just make sure you remember where the coin locker is. And normally what I like to do is put an Apple AirTag in the coin locker, and then it's just easier for me to see. But I usually have like a landmark, a good landmark, like a bookstore, or I'll try to take a coin locker that's outside the train station. You'll see coin lockers in a lot of really random places, but most of the time you're gonna see it at shopping centers and at public transportation places and train stations. If you want to know what to wear when you go to Japan, for a girl, what I like to do is I like to dress a little bit fancier, even if it's hotter weather or colder weather, so I'll just layer and then wear trench coats. Trench coats are a really big thing in Japan, especially in the spring and fall time. So what I like doing is I love wearing slacks, I love wearing neutral colors, black and white. Also, make sure you're not wearing just leggings. I've talked about this in my other videos. You wanna make sure you just cover your butt. In Japan, the girls don't wear just leggings. They normally have shorts or a skirt on over it, so just don't be that random tourist showing their butt everywhere. Let's talk about body odor. In my other videos, I mentioned that deodorant is kind of hard to find in Japan, and it's because it is harder to find in Japan. It doesn't mean there's not any deodorant you can find, and sometimes there's some fresh clothes spray in your hotel, but just make sure you don't forget your deodorant from home. And the best type of deodorant to bring is gonna be the scent-free ones, just so you don't smell distracting. And the reason for this is because a lot of East Asians naturally produce less body odor in their underarms. You can Google it, but that's why I say bring your deodorant from home. All right, let's talk about meds. Make sure you're checking to see the banned medication list before you go. So you wanna make sure you're not bringing stuff like NyQuil, okay? No NyQuil, no DayQuil. You can get in a lot of trouble for that. I'll put some links below on some of the information that I found about banned medications in Japan, but don't mess with this. If you do have to bring a prescription med, just make sure you bring enough for that trip and maybe just a little bit extra so you don't look suspicious. If you do bring in medication, like over-the-counter medication, just make sure the label is there. So what I like to do is, like, let's say I need like an ibuprofen or something, I'll usually just do like the single servings, and it already has the information on the front and back, so it looks obvious it's an over-the-counter medication. If you do need to pick up any medication, you're not going to find that at the convenience stores. What you need to do is go to one of the pharmacies, and they normally have a few of them in the busier places. You can also find a lot of beauty care there and a lot of other random goodies. I've also been to urgent care twice now in Tokyo, and I recommend if you do have to use an urgent care, just make sure you're there towards the earlier part of the day, like when it opens, usually around 10 o'clock or so, maybe even a little bit earlier. If you arrive too late, they may turn you away. This is what happened to me. It's a long story about it. Maybe it'll show up in one of my travel vlogs, but just in general, just make sure you show up earlier in the day. And then also make sure you have some cash with you just in case. When it comes to translation, I like to use Google Translate or Papago. So what you do is you change your language from English to Japanese, and then you take a picture and wait a few seconds, and voila, it is translated. I hope you like these tips, and don't forget to download that free beginner's guide to Japan in the description below. I also have a Japan playlist that covers many more tips, so I'll put that on the screen right here.